Today we're going to be talking about how I play this game, and this game, and this game, and this game, and all the future games I play on my channel when I can't feel my left arm. So, starting with the worst to the best, which all PC gamers are going to hate me for if they use keyboards. I actually find it to be very difficult to use keyboards at all when I play video games. The reason being, your options, even though you can configure keys to a different game, when you're looking at a computer screen and playing, it makes it very difficult to pay attention to certain mechanics. Like if I have specifically WASD as my movement buttons instead of the arrow keys, then I actually have to move my right arm over and I can't use anything over to my right. If I move my configurations to the arrow keys, then I'm still able to move and I can actually move my character around. And if you look at this gameplay here of Fall Guys, before my friend graciously got me a controller to play on computers, I actually had a lot of struggle because anytime I was watching what I was doing on Fall Guys, I would hit the arrow keys. And then what would happen is if I was hitting spacebar and paying attention, I would end up hitting B or N or V or M because while I'm paying attention to the computer screen, I can't pay attention to what my left hand is doing. And when you can't feel, you have to consciously look at what you're doing. And so basically what happens with the computer, as much as I love PCs and think they are amazing, it is pretty impossible for me to use a keyboard to play. I can sometimes use a mouse and a keyboard, like when I play Among Us with my friends. But I also can't, with Among Us, configure to use also keys. My second easiest option for playing video games is the Nintendo Switch. Not necessarily them individually, because the one good thing about the Nintendo Switch is that you have very many options on how you play the game. You can have one controller like this, you can have one like this, you can have the actual console is a kind of PSP, or you can hook it up to your TV. And you can even, if you have an adaptive option, make it into one big controller, which is what I tend to go for. Unfortunately, when I am playing with the full-handed mode, as you can see right here as I put this together, what happens is, no matter what, I have to have at least two hands on the object in order to play. The reason the Nintendo Switch in this form isn't as bad as the keyboard is because when I am using it, I can still look to the left out of the corner of my eye and see if my finger is touching the right button. If my character starts to wander the wrong way, I can basically just double check what my fingers are doing out of the corner of my eye. Sometimes that is difficult with things like Mario Kart because they are fast-paced gaming. And with fast-paced gaming, it makes it a little bit harder to look out of the corner of your eye. So that's why this is in number 2 when it comes to the items I use for gaming. I do tend to put it into a controller format and hook it up to my TV the most when I'm playing other video games. But sometimes, you're on the road and you want to pull out a game, and this is my option when I'm traveling. And here comes my favorite option, the third option, the controller. Specifically for me, the Xbox controller, despite the fact that I really need to replace mine with the fact that this little knob cushion is gone and these little flaps right here are coming off. But I like where the sticks are a lot more than I do when it's a PlayStation controller. What I do here is I will, basically you won't be able to see this very well, but what I do is I use pretty much only one hand for using the controller. And I use my right trigger, my left trigger, my X, Y, B, A, all with my right hand along with this. But then what I do is I have, instead of using what you would normally do with two hands, I put my pinky finger where my right trigger is if I need it, or my ring finger, one or the other, whichever one is more convenient for the game. And then I will use my index finger to move my character around. By doing this, it allows me to be able to feel where I am moving, so I don't have to constantly look down at my controller when I play video games. I can keep looking at my screen and have no problems. Then what I do, because it's not like the left trigger or the left bumper move very much, I will use my left hand for these two options. Normally with video games, I have found you don't really need the directional pads very often, except for with things like Monster Hunter, but sometimes you can get around that with different configurations. And as much as I loved PlayStation when I was a kid, I actually have a very big recommendation for anybody that has disabilities to use the Xbox, mostly just because even though I do know it's a business model, they have the tendency to focus a little bit more on disabilities by way of making adaptive controllers if you can't figure out a way to make the regular ones work. They have recently made a program for developers who are making games to send them in, and people that are focused on accessibility and ways for people to play games will send recommendations to those developers in order to make it possible for people with disabilities and difficulties playing video games to be able to play. Even though Xbox is a business in the long run, I will always applaud them for at least focusing a little bit on gaming for everybody. Not that if, like, you know, you have a disability or anything and that's your option for PlayStation or whatever, that's always, you know, everybody enjoys their own thing. That's it though. If you enjoy this video, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing, and I really hope you enjoy this disability video. I hope everybody has a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!